Hello patrons and visitors. In this video, we'll be going over this month's assets, how to best employ them, and what else has been going on behind the scenes. The month started out poorly when I developed Carpal Tunnel, thanks Logitech MX Master 3S. 10 out of 10. Would injure myself again. Anyway, I ripped apart my old trusty Performance MX and got it working again. After a month of using a mouse that's actually shaped to conform to the human hand instead of stab it with a pyramid, I've been able to get back up to speed. I never feel like I have enough assets, but here's what we've got. A bit over 100 new objects, paths, walls, doors, and floors. If you're not a patron, check the description below to grab the free airship pack. Cyberpunk. I spent some time developing a way to quickly and efficiently create custom glowing neon signs. So I've got some of the basics here: beer, food, I think there's a gun store, guns, ammo, guns for less. They're designed to be tilted at just enough of an angle that you kind of can read what's on there, but I welcome your feedback on that if you'd rather it match everything else and be completely orthographic. Also, if you have requests for words you need on a sign, businesses or anything like that, send me a message, leave me a comment, drop by the Discord, and I will do my best to get it into the next pack. This is just kind of things I made up on the fly to cover some of the basics. And as usual, the recoloring system's kind of funky, so I've actually created these with colors baked in, and you've got some red, green, and blue here. Again, if you need a different color, let me know. All I've got to do is go in and hue shift these, so it's no big deal. I've got some factory stuff here that could be used in any setting, I'd imagine. And that consists of some objects, a corner, and then of course a path, so that you can kind of make your own shapes. As far as paths go, we've got this new light strip, and that doesn't look too terribly useful right now, but I'm going to show you an example of it in use, and you'll see why I made it and why it's actually pretty useful. You've got the base of it, you've got a version of it with the lights turned off, you've got the lights turned on, and then a glow effect. And I figure you might not actually want the glow effect, so you have an option. And then there's an object that is just the glow effect by itself in case you want one of them on instead of all of them. This is kind of focused on spaceships and high-tech stuff. And in that same vein, there's a new wall set here, wall, ship, structure, in 3 different colors. And because things like this can have distortions, they also include these new objects for fixing them. So these are under wall detail. Got that in 3 colors. That's kind of for tech ship and spaceship. Now for very large spaceships, which is one of the things that was voted for, we have this set of giant windows, and there are several sizes and shapes, and each one has a shattered glass underlay and a non-shattered glass, but of course they're empty by default, so you can do a lot more with them than just make windows, and I'll show you that in a minute. We also have this. This is actually for the Xenopack, and I will explain. So here's the methodology for the Xenopack going forward, and you can tell me if you think this is a good idea or a bad one. I propose that I treat the pack and its contents kind of like a TV show production. Instead of producing a bunch of random assets that vaguely fit the aliens but with culture theme, I dream up a fictional alien race and culture and then make assets that represent them. You can drop such a race into your game, or you can just ignore all of it and just do your own thing with the assets. The big idea is that these sets of assets will be internally consistent. You can still reframe everything about them, but in the end, their floors and walls will share the same design language. This pack contains my first attempt for such a concept, and if you search in the objects for OV, you will get all of the things involved with this fictional race, and also microwaves, because microwaves. So I called this race the Ovoids, for no particular reason, I just needed a name. Ovoids like curvature. They like rounded off edges, and they round off anything they can, and they prefer circular ships and buildings to square ones. Unfortunately for them, most of us play our games on a grid, but at the very least, their design language can reflect their disdain for right angles. Here is an example of what their ships and buildings might look like, using all the new items provided in this pack. They've got this strange circular pattern kind of embedded underneath the floor. This floor is a pattern, of course. You can pick the white version of the pattern and recolor it. So that's where that green comes from. And you can make it whatever you want. In this test, I've used the path tool to create some more kind of inlays in the floor and taking more opportunities to do some of that circular stuff. This wall set also comes with overlays to fix corners and make them look a little bit cleaner. And of course there are half-wall versions, so that you can have one wall on this side look different than this one. What I've actually done here is gone back over everything again with the third wall type that is included. That is just the wall by itself, and that just helps seal the other two together. And remember that when you do this, if you use multiple walls on top of each other, you're gonna have to drop doorways twice. Speaking of doorways, these are offered as actual doors that can be placed, but by request, I'm now providing doors as individual objects that you can drop down like any other. That's under doors and windows. And I've been slowly backfilling all the old doors as well. So if you get a wall that's really finicky, now you have a way to get those portals in there anyway. Example number 2. Let's talk about those windows that don't just have to be windows. So say your players need to assassinate someone. Now they can go on EVA and find that person's office, and you could even drop these assets in directly in your VTT. When they blow the window, you can just replace it with the broken one, or hide it altogether. Another example, using the rectangular window and some patterns and paths, is this could be a door, or maybe these two doors slide open and it's a walkway that leads down. These are all just existing assets being reused in different ways. Now to that light path. So this is using some of the new stuff and some of the existing stuff, and you can use these light paths to create some more interesting hallways. This is the new wall, of course, and then a pattern that's been in here for a while. That's this padding that is normally white, but it's white so you can recolor it. So this kind of does that utilitarian spaceship look that's kind of like a staple of Alien and other franchises. And then the floor is just a pattern with, of course, more paths layered on top to give you different broken up panels. Here I brought these all the way around. And then because you have the lit version and unlit version, typically you would end up with half a light here, and that wouldn't look very good. So I stopped the light line here and then made a blank one here so that it didn't cut off. Then of course layered in a bunch of other paths and things to give some detail. As of this video, there's a bug with these new walls. Pretty sure I know what it is and how to fix it, but I don't want to hold up the release of everything just for this. For now, you can still build with it, and then when the pack is updated, when you open your maps again, they will be fixed. You can also use these overlays to hide some of those little funny things that Dungeondraft likes to do. So that's all of the Dungeondraft stuff. But wait, there's more. I have the first audio assets ready for the command crew and above patrons. It's a small start, but so was Hellscape a year and a half ago. I've created 2 ambient loops intended to sound like the inside of a ovoid ship. That's the silly made-up alien race that represents the new graphics. They're short, but they loop seamlessly, so you can just kind of let them go. And they're also complementary to one another. And you can find them in the new audio posts that should be up soon. If you're not a regular on the Discord, you might not even know, but for the past few months, I've been working on a new asset pack called Stellar Cartography. My intent is to provide you with everything you need to create your own solar system map, or possibly even your own space scenes for backgrounds or for viewer screens. I don't have an ETA on this project, but it will be out in early access as soon as the most common types of celestial bodies are represented. This kind of project is more about workflow development than just making assets. You guys are going to need a lot of different types of planets and a lot of control over how those planets look, such as adding rings. So here's an example scene of kind of what I've been thinking. I've got I've got all the planets rendered with the light coming from the left, with one exception that I'll show you in a minute. And this is so, as you lay out your scene, they are always realistically lit, but obviously not at a realistic scale, because that would be a pretty silly looking map. Here's another test with a different style of map. Well, that's what I've got for you this month. If you're not a patron, consider checking us out. If you are a patron, consider dropping by the Discord. It's very useful to get your feedback there. Thanks once again to my generous patrons who make this all possible, and I'll see you next month.